Good morning.
Yep. Hello. Good evening.
Hello.
Hi, Ed.
Good morning. So we'll allow a few minutes for folks to turn up before we get going.
Hi, Ed.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. And you?
Oh, I'm well. We're just waiting a few minutes before we get going. Anything that folks want to discuss before I start sharing the issues PR board? All right. Let me go ahead and share that board then. Excellent. Can everyone see the share?
Yep.
Fantastic. So traditionally, we usually start over on we usually go from left to right, as it turns out, because we'll start with open questions, and as we clear things, sometimes things will move, cards will move from right to left, and we don't have to go over them twice. So really quickly, continuous upgrade testing. I think here you had a spec for a release repo that you had up, Denise, and I've added that to the community agenda today because I want to have a brief discussion of that, because I'd also like to discuss timing and priorities for the 1.0 release in the community meeting today as well.
Okay.
Do you want to discuss that further here, or could we defer that to the community call?
Yep, I think we can.
Fantastic. So the WireGuard modifications in VPP. So Artem, I absolutely owe you input on how to refactor the API for the WireGuard stuff, including sort of like what the issues are. And please note, you did a fantastic job with implementing WireGuard in terms of correctness of the wire protocol, and also in terms of having the same sort of API that the Linux kernel provides. But the Linux kernel has a very limited view of networking, and we need a little more flexibility on the API side. So I will get you more on that shortly. decompose scalability testing and provide estimates for each task.
I guess we have an unfinished conversation about mock applications.
Let's see.
Yep. So actually, I guess we need maybe 1 or 2 mock applications for each case of testing component.
Mm-hmm.
So will it be okay? And
so here's where I'm not entirely clear. I'm not entirely clear sort of what you're looking for in the command fake stuff, as opposed to real applications for scalability testing, if we're talking about doing integration testing with them.
It's about scalability testing of individual components. So for example, a fake registry to test manager, or fake manager to test registry, something like that.
Okay, and so I get that within the context of the sandbox stuff. The question is, so but if you're talking about building freestanding command pieces, correct?
Yep.
Okay. So why would we then test the network service manager with a fake registry instead of a real registry?
Because I think there can be some bottleneck in registry when we are trying to test NS manager scalability. And so
it's certainly possible, but then that actually shakes out on registry. Right, so it shakes out as part of testing. I think what you're saying is that you're concerned that if you use the real registry, then you end up also testing the real registry scalability at the same time. But writing a new registry just for the purposes of testing sounds like a lot of work that doesn't actually, it sounds like a lot of work that I'm not sure that's worth the input, because essentially what you're saying, for a fake registry to not have the same problems that you have with the real registry, you would have to basically write it in a way that was functional enough that it actually gave the network service manager what it needed, but that was, but that then you made more performant than the real registry, which seems weird. Or more scalable than the real registry.
I think of most of fake applications as just answering yes, okay for all requests. So I guess it can be something very simple.
Right, but the registry has to feed information back. It has to take registration from the network service manager, and it has to feed registration information back to the network service manager. So I'm wondering why the memory registry doesn't meet the bill.
Okay, I guess it can, but there is some another problem. For example, to test registry working with multiple managers. So it can be, I guess, a problem to create multiple managers with multiple points on each.
Oh, when you get to the point of actually testing the scalability of the registry, yes, you would need sort of a multi-node case.
So I guess we just can emulate multi-node case with single fake NS manager.
What's concerning me is that it's starting to sound like we're going to be doing as much or more work to do the emulation down here as just doing integration scalability testing to begin with, is I guess my problem. Does that make sense?
Yep.
That we may basically be making much more work in the component by component to get a less true to the real world scalability testing, if that makes sense. So, and that's kind of what my concern is with all of that.
Oh, yep, it's good. I guess we can move for this from open questions. I guess it's resolved.
Okay. Do you feel like you got what you needed from this slide?
So it means that we don't need mock application to test some components. Am I right?
Yeah, I think basically what we're looking for is to test how the system itself will scale. And it sounded like putting this together for component-wise testing may be more work than just testing how the system scales. Does that make sense?
Yes, I guess it should take more work. So actually, the question was not about having some mock application to test whole system. No, whole system, I guess we can test with real clients and real endpoints, but for testing some components, we may need some mock applications. What do you think of this?
Okay, so correct me. Please pardon me, because my understanding of Sandbox is somewhat limited. I've looked at it a little bit.
No, it's not about sandbox tests. It's about integration tests with mock applications. So mock applications means KMD
my point is, I think we're going to put more energy into building the mocks than we would put into just testing the system.
Yes, but probably it can be the only way, or not.
I mean, I guess the point is, let's say for the sake of argument that I'm going to go ahead and put together a system where the network service manager is going to be taking on, we're going to scale up the number of NSEs that the network service manager is taking on, right? And so I'm going to put that system together. And if we do that, then you've got to have a registry. Well, the registry's got to be able to accept registration information. You need to be able to do lookups in that registry and get the registration information back, right? In order for clients, for the network service manager to be tested to see how it responds to the clients trying to, get to lots of these registration things. So to build a mock registry, you basically wind up with something that looks almost exactly like the memory registry.
I don't think so. So probably we don't need a fake registry to single fake registry for all cases. We can build different registries for different cases. So maybe one for registrations, one for find requests, and each of them will be very simple and lightweight.
Let's take this offline on IAM. I think we can sort this out, but we burned a lot of time in this particular discussion.
Yeah.
But I appreciate you. I appreciate the thought, the way you think about things, and I want to dig deeper into make sure I'm not misunderstanding something.
Okay.
Okay, so mechanism preference doesn't work when NSE and NSE are in the worker node.
It's about SRE forwarder, I guess. Yes.
Yeah, SRE forwarder only will meaningfully work. And let me add this to my list of things to basically confirm, because you're absolutely correct. The NSE forwarder is only going to work in remote cases because it actually turns out that trying to use SRIOV between two pods is an incredibly bad choice. I mean, you can do it, but you'd have to be out of your mind, because it's number one, it's very complicated, but number two, it performs terribly because you're moving over the PCI bus instead of moving over the memory bus like you would with MemIF. So you're absolutely correct. Let me go ahead and confirm that there. Composition of translation client. So the NSE composition translation client for the pass-through NSE.
Oh, we have found that we can close this one.
Okay. Okay. And again, I very much appreciate, Vlad, how you sort of pick all the ideas apart. That is actually incredibly helpful. So much appreciated. Cool. All right. So next up, anything else on the open questions before we go to the review in progress?
Oh, yep. I have a few thoughts about scalability testing. I guess we can start with testing of real applications and get some results. And for testing each individual application, we could do it on command level. And we can use for this sandbox for emulating all things.
Yeah, that seems likely. Again, it may be that this is a good conversation for the three of us to have on the scalability testing on IAM, because my tendency is more in the direction that you just articulated, Denise, but that doesn't necessarily make us right. I want to make sure we fully understand Vlad's point, and I don't feel completely like I do at this point. So that probably means we need to take it to IM. All right,
Okay.
decompose that NSC composition and provide estimated time for each task under reviews in progress. So I know we had a long conversation about NSC composition, Vlad, and I think we sorted out this question, did we?
Yes, yes, actually, this is for decomposition. There is a root. No, please stop closing it. There is a root task. So can you open this? Now, please scroll down. There is a link in. Oh, please sum up. Yeah.
NSC composition 872.
Yeah.
Okay, can we close this one in favor of 872?
So we're just waiting for everyone to be okay with this decomposition, to close decomposition task, I guess.
Okay, so in the decomposition task, so for example, okay, so sandbox tests, migrate ACL from monorepo. Okay, yeah. Create firewall application, MD integration tests. So 872 looks good to me. 820, I think we sorted out the pieces in 820. So is this? So 872 does look good to me.
Okay. Yeah. So I guess we can close the decomposition task.
Okay, cool. Apologies for all the confusion there. All right, WireGuard IPv6 support. Artem, I know you had opened this hash for this. You were getting some feedback from Ole.
It is still review in progress. We have a discussion in Slack, and now we ping another guy to review this PR.
Yeah. Nathan and Lois and Neil.
Yeah.
Just to give you a thumbnail sketch of who these folks are, Neil Rand is literally the guy who wrote the fib. So he's definitely the expert. He's completely brilliant. Although he doesn't always understand if you're doing more novel things with networking. He's sometimes a little old school. Alois and Nathan are folks who work out of Paris on Calico VPP. So they're also really bright guys. And I think Ole sort of looked at the question you were asking him and sort of said, that's a really good question. I'm not exactly the expert in that area. So I will continue to poke at folks then on that. The VXLAN GP port mapping, is that still not getting reviewed?
Yeah, still review in progress.
Okay, I will have to go figure out who to poke on that. Topology wheel aware scale from 0 stuff.
It's the first step of implementing this. I
saw the add NS labels template chain element. So yes.
Yes, scope of this issue is just creating a chain element for NSM manager to get possible to process templates from destination selectors. And as I know, Mikhail is provided PR, so it is under review currently.
Fantastic. Yeah, I saw that go by. I saw that land there, and that's good news. So excellent. Topology wheel scale from 0, NSC in response to NSC, implement a chain element that can produce pod based on the past template.
It is another step of this.
Yep.
And here, and scope of this is just creating a chain element that could create pods based on some templates.
And that's in SDKK8, which is exactly the right place for it. So that's good news.
Yep, and it is also under review.
Fantastic. Okay, in progress, use clock library to enhance testing.
Still in progress.
How is this going? So this is clearly more involved than I had originally thought it would be. Because it's taking a while.
Yeah, it's kind of dependent on Reworked Sandbox, and Reworked Sandbox is blocked by some bugs.
Which bugs is blocking Reworked Sandbox?
Itself. It's not blocked. There are some bugs I'm trying to fix.
Okay. So basically, reworking the sandbox is in progress, and it's just trying to converge, and it doesn't make any sense to upset the apple cart by moving in all these clock changes before Reworked Sandbox goes in, because it's just going to make it harder to get the Reworked Sandbox in.
Yep.
Okay, that makes sense. Did everything get updated to Go 1.16, by the way, here?
Oh, I guess all our applications are updated.
Fantastic. So this is done?
Yes.
Cool. All right. Interdomain support. How is this going?
Oh, it is going good. I have found a few bugs in our interdomain from monorepo, and we have discussed about them in Slack. So currently, I have provided a stream with all this map of requests. And currently, I am implementing this on SDK level, and I also plan to start test this on kind soon.
Fantastic.
And that's it.
Okay, cool. And I presume the same goes for interdomain. I know you're sort of thinking about them in parallel, which is probably good for floating interdomain.
Oh, yes, floating interdomain also is in progress, and I also provided diagrams with requests and so on. And it is also going good.
Fantastic. Okay, excellent. Integration testing on AKS. I believe this is Artem. How is this going?
It is almost done. We fixed some CI tests, but unfortunately, as you know, a few integration tests are still unstable, and not only on AKS, and now CI is failed, unfortunately.
Oh, yes, it is a real problem. I went to report this. So actually, we have a few tests related to VX1.
Okay.
And these tests are unstable. So should we focus on them as soon as possible?
Yeah, we definitely want to focus on that as soon as possible. One other thing I'll mention in passing, which is that you remember a while back, and I'm trying to remember who it was who did it, who basically just beat on the forwarder for a while and discovered that there had been a problem, that there was some instability there. And I pushed a fix for the GRPCFD receive FD stuff. Well, there are two fixes. One was the fix that was producing most of the instability, where occasionally there was a race condition where we wouldn't send file descriptors until after we'd sent the request. And the other fix I pushed was, you had this very astute observation, Vlad, that we had a situation where we might get a panic from receiving a nil file, an empty file descriptor. But I put a fix in that protects us from that being a panic. I haven't quite decided. You were very good about pointing out where that was downstream, and I appreciate that, but I haven't quite decided what to do downstream in GRPCFD about it yet, if anything. I was curious, did you ever, Vlad, did you ever see that panic in the real world?
I haven't yet tested with your fix.
Okay.
So, yes, the panic was.
It was something you saw. Okay, good. That's good to know. It's interesting because there's a very limited number of conditions so that can occur. But the other thing is, after I got rid of that, I ran a bunch of scale testing with the test script that was provided for beating on the forwarder. And there is something that happens proximate to VXLAN, but it also shows, and this may just be a side effect of the failure, it shows a situation where it appears to not be getting credentials passed over metadata. So send me the bug when you open on the VXLAN stuff, and we can take a look and see if we're seeing the same thing there. Because if we're seeing the same thing there, then it's something that's reproducible with the unit tests, or not the unit tests, but with the command forwarder tests, which will make it much easier to dig into. Sound good?
Oh, yep. Also, we'll check that it is probably is good or not on kind with last update.
Okay. No, that's probably also a good idea. Yeah. So okay. And then the IPerf examples, we don't have the person who's working on that. Interdomain sandbox test doesn't work without query cache.
Oh, it is actually it will be fixed with updated stream of requests. So if you include proxy manager registry into pass, then this issue is resolved.
Okay, sounds good. All right. So possible package sandbox to be usable in Docker tests.
It's about Reworked Sandbox PR.
That's what I suspected. It smelled a lot like that was what was going on. Destructive chaos testing, which is testing the heel stuff.
So it's actually blocked by Sandbox and Clock.
Okay. So it's blocked by some bugs in terms of moving forward, but do we have a notion of how we're moving forward? Is that clear?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Because if it's blocked by bugs, then in some sense, it's already starting to do its job by shaking bugs out. So packet setup is unstable. This is blocked. Do we know what's blocked and what we might be able to do to get it undone?
So actually, we have some problem from the packet side, and I'm not sure what is the problem. I have some communication with the support team, but we still have no answer. So it's not something always happening, but it happens sometimes.
So correct me if I'm wrong, my sense of it is that what's going on is we've always had the issue that when you ask Packet for a server, every now and again, it tries to give you a server and that doesn't work out, right?
Yes.
And so in cloud tests, we would just say, okay, well, we're not getting that server, we'll ask for another one. But in this case is what's happening that sometimes we ask it for one of our reserved instances and it has the same sort of problem we used to see, except we have a finite number of reserved instances. So when things go wrong, we have a problem. Is that what's going on, or?
I guess the most problem is that something it happens and we don't know what is the problem. So probably it not blocking us, but it affects our testing in some way.
Okay. So we are running up against the top of the hour. Let's go ahead and jump over to the community meeting. Sound good?
Yep.
See you all there.
See you.